Hello, good afternoon, everyone. So, how are you all? Okay, hope you all had good sessions and sharing your thoughts and exchanging your knowledge. So, how many of you did got a new connections? Only few people. So, the main purpose is purpose of this this Apple community to the know each other and understanding and exchanging your thoughts, right? So, we should do that, right? So, and the today which I am going to talk about integrating identity with Apple. So, with then the existing features, which is the recently Apple has the released on WWDC, right? So, let's now start with my introductions. So my name is Prabhu. I'm currently, the pre-sales support lead at Brilliant ID Solutions. I have 8+ years experience in Apple ecosystem and 3 years plus in the, the working within the multiple MDMs, right? So I have specialized this in the JAM, and also I have certified ID professional, and also like the JAM certified expert, certified expert engineer. So I have recently completed my JAM 400 and also the JAM certified security engineer for Mac and iOS as well, right? So what motivates to to do this demo, do these sessions, right? So the appreciations from the people, makes you to grow your careers or the anything, right? So so I have been recently got this award from the JAM FY24, the partner alliance for the pre-sales partner champion, right? So this motivates me to the work more on the the MDMs and everything, right? So that's all about me, right? So now let's get started with the agenda. So first we'll going to talk about the challenges with identity. So what are the challenges we are facing with the the challenges within identity? Then we'll talk about the platform SSO and why platform SSO, which has been the required and in the future. Then we'll quickly get into the passkeys and the passwordless authentication. Then we'll talk about the zero-touch enrollment with the platform SSO, which is the new which is going to be a game changer and existing feature which is going to be added to the for an IT admins, right? It is going to be make your life easier and also the severe cost as well. That I'll discuss in later the sessions, the upcoming the slides. And then we'll talk about authenticated guest mode. This the guest mode. I like these features which we have been waiting from the long time. So we'll talk about it. Then we'll have another quick review, and then we'll I'll share some resources. You can just scan and download the PDF file also, right? Then we'll have Q&A sessions. If you have any, feel free to the note down your questions, and then we can share your the knowledge on this, right? So now let's talk about what are the challenges with identity within the Entra and macOS, right? So the first one, over the years I was been when I started my career into an Apple, I was hearing then this the problems which you are facing. So whenever we go and meet to the customers, right? So we have the always IT admin or the IT manager comes with topics where they always compare the Mac OSs with the Windows devices. Correct. So with that they have seamless and sign-in experience in the Windows from Windows hello, and then they'll just enter their credentials and the account will get created, and after that they'll have seamless sign-in experience on across the applications, right? So which we do not have we are not able to achieve that into the macOS, right? So now here is the the game changer of a platform SSO, which I'm going to talk about it, right? So this is going to make our life the easier, and this is going to be the extend your all of your applications with a single clicks, and it is going to be changed. And also device registration complaints, right? So you might have come across with the device complaints issues also, right? So when you do a registration, it will ask for the certificate, install certificates, and it will join to the workplace AD workplace, and it will not trust the certificates and all. For that time we need to have an admin account to do that, right? So we're all going to the fix it, fix these issues in the platform SSO, and how are you going to achieve this, right? Okay. So with the platform SSO, So what is Platform SSO? The first of all, right? So the Platform SSO is a modern framework for a macOS that deeply integrates with the user identity credentials and with their, the local Mac user account, designed to like provide a seamless and secure authentication experience across the device and all associated enterprise, the websites and your application, right? So which you can see it. So the single sign-on extensions, will support from the login window to your applications, the browsers, and your VPN applications and your Wi-Fi authentications as well, right? So that's the thing. So now let's see, what is Platform SSO, which are the IDPs are supported currently. So the currently Microsoft Entra ID and the Okta are the two IDs identity provider are supported. In coming up the years, we may have the few more identities is also added to the to this, right? So what is required to configure the Platform SSO? First, you need to have the macOS the 14. That's the minimum version, which also support for and 13 with the limited the settings and payloads which is going to be work, right? And I would recommend highly for the macOS 15 and the macOS 26, which is going to be released on the upcoming days. So I'm going to show you the demo within macOS 26, and we'll see you that when we are in that, right? And we need to have an MDM solution, and which is supports the SSO payload and the identity provider, example your Entra or the Okta, and the company portal, obviously, which is required to rotate your the passwords and everything for the SSO application, and MFA configured with the passwordless also. And with this, why we need to have SSO in place, right? So what is the new features which is there, and why we need to adapt the Platform SSO? The first one, which is going to be which I've talked the problem statement was there. The sign-in experience is similar to signing into a Windows device with the work and the the like users do on Hello for a business, right? On a single click, you will be able to sign into across all your applications. With it is going to be give you the same experience as a Windows as well, right? And the which has Apple introduced, right? It's a native MDM framework which has been available from the macOS 26. So we no need to do a third-party identity integrations for this to work in order to work, right? And it is easy to deploy. There is no conflict for the if you wanted to configure and deploy an identity solutions in your environment, right? You need to have ROPG, OIDC, and your tenant ID details, correct? So here, it's just a single sign-on extensions payload, which you're going to configure, and it is easy to deploy, right? And when I say cost save, so in all the enterprises, right? So when you go to they wanted to ask for the security complaints, they wanted to have a identity solutions, but they are not ready to pay for the identity solutions, right? So all the MDM solutions have their identity solutions with their the different framework which works within the Mac OSs, correct? So here you're going to save the money. Since it's going to be the macOS native MDM framework, you no need to have purchase an additional identity solutions here, right? And also which you all already know that the built-in security of your Touch ID, and you can unlock your Mac with the Touch IDs as well, right? And it is going to give you the seamless experience across the devices, and also it helps the minimized number of times the users need to enter Microsoft identity credentials, right? So in current state, what are the what's the best practices we are doing, right? On the if you take the SSO journey, so when it started from through the company portal registration, even at the time you need to sign into a on the browser, and also it was supported only to the native application, that is Safari, correct? So in that case, what we have reckon, still we have to enter our passwords the multiple time, right? So we are whereas Susanta has covered, right? So the users passwords can be leaked out, right? So you can be an the cyber attack or something. So which I'm going to cover that also, we are going on a passwordless authentication. That's the modern authentication which I'm going to cover this, right? And it is going to be like minimize your, on a single place, you will be logging to your Microsoft 360 applications. And also, always had a comparison, right, within Windows and the Mac OSs. Whereas in Outlook, in Windows, you offer you configuring. So you just, click, it will, the sign in with your all, the emails, right? The similar experience which is going to be happen on the Mac OS also. With the Mac OS 26, once the device enrollment is complete, your email ID will get, pre-populated. You just click on sign in, you will be signed into your, all the application, Office 365 applications, right? Now let's see what are the authentication methods, supported by Platform SSO, right? So one is a passwordless, right? So your passwordless authentication, what happens here, by leaking your passwords, that will reduce, sorry, by leaking your passwords also, like, the phishing resistant, which will be there, like, which is going to be on a secure enclave, right? So what is secure enclave? Basically, the secure enclave is, the dedicated, isolated security system integrated with Apple system on a chip, right? So the secure enclave, it stores your password, it leaves on the device. So it will never, never leave the device from that, right? So, and the passwordless authentication is also be, one of the great feature which I've seen it, right? So you will not have a password for your identity. So you just need to, have a passkeys and all, can be used as a passkey. And through an MFA application, you will be able to, like, sign into all your applications, right? So which I'll be covering that, in the coming slides. And the next one is smart card. So what is smart card? Basically, the smart card is, the secure authentication method used to log into a macOS systems and access to your enterprise resources, and it stores your digital certificates and credentials and enabling two-factor authentication. So this, this smart card basically, like, it's, informally we use of UB keys, right? So we just need to insert, unlock you get the access code, and then, your Mac will get unlocked. This was the formal, it was there, and with the new designs which has been added to the, like, hardware level. So earlier it was there only for the, like, kind of a user level. Now it is going to be, the change the world within hardware level of that, the smart cards and the secure enclave, which is going to be another game changer on the Mac OS world, right? So also you can see that, the differences between secure enclave and the smart card and the passwords, right? And the secure enclave accept accept the local Mac password synced with an Entra ID. So everything, the supported on the the secure enclave. So this is, which is going to be another game changer in the macOS within Platform SSO, because it seamlessly signs in your applications and syncs your passwords also, right? So next, they will see what are the challenges. When it comes to the traditional password practices, what's the first challenge which comes to your mind? To remember too many passwords, right? So if I take an example of mine, to the work profile, I have to remember 70 plus passwords if I don't have a passwords application in a macOS or the iCloud keychain sync, right? And also, while setting up the, the passwords is also, the password reuse is as common. The many individuals frequently reuse passwords across a different accounts. And also they set the password, it is like, the predictable password choices. Even though if you set, from an Entra, any IDP, you set up complexity, you need to have, at the rate and special characters and the complexity also. The users will do a simple setup password. Like, for example, they can set the Apple at 123. You have, you have your numerical and the special characters and the numbers as well. So it accepts. It's a predictable passwords on the macOS IT admins, which they set up initially for the IT admin accounts, right? And password sharing is a risk, which is, the Susanta has covered in the cyber attacks, right? So sharing your password by mistake, like, you went to office and unfortunately your laptop is, they're not switching on or something, right? But you wanted to send some data to a client or the customer or your manager. So you accidentally saved your password on the the colleague. You may not misuse your password, but there are chances of, if the device is under attack, so with that user, your colleague passwords and along with your passwords also get leaked, right? So that's where, we are going on the modern authentication for the passwordless authentications, right? And as I said, if I reset the password, like, a few days back also, I just reset the password for a 5 minutes ago. And after that, while signing in, I forgot the password. It is too tough to, remember the password. I forgot to, like, sync my password with the keychain, so with the password applications, right? So then we'll talk about what is passkey. So this is, which I've covered on the secure enclave. So which will be like, uh, which will help us to, like, store your credentials on the cryptographic format, right? So it will not even, you will be not able, like, and it will not even, on human readable language, it will not, store your password on the secure enclave. So even if they wanted to, like, your device under attack, and the secure enclave is basically on the hardware level. It is not on the user level or something. So the passkey which will basically stores on the secure enclave, it is not readable to an admin. So it uses some mechanisms from a backend key to authenticate, like, with your identifications and all, right? And with these, the password, what are the different types of, which will be used, right? So unlike, your passwords and passkey cannot be shared and remembered or written down, and this makes for values, the vulnerable to the types of attacks and the commonly target password, the based systems. If I wanted to, like, the breakdown into a technically, the passkeys are, the powered by cryptography, providing strong and frictionless, authentication. The passkey leverages, public-private key pairs to authenticate users without ever exposing sensitive information. Right? So when passkey is created, the two cryptographic keys are generated basically. One is public and one is private key. Right? So the public key is the stays on the server, on the service provider. It isn't sensitive its own and can't be used to access your account. Right? And the private key, this key kept on the user's device, like a smartphone. It never leaves the device and is always protected by the strong from of a user verifications, right? So now let's see what is passwordless authentication with this, right? So what is passwordless authentication, right? So one is authenticating without the passwords. You'll not have any, the password. It's a modern authentication, which is, the framework. You just need to enable the passwordless authentication from your identity side, right? So also you can sign in with the just a push notification. Either you just, enter your the password, email ID, and the push notification will send to your mobile authenticator, and from there, you just approve it from your biometric, and you will be signed into that. So here there will be no password included, and also, it is going to be in future. Whereas we, got us a few requests, like, from a fintech companies, right? So they don't want to, like, they'll have, the too much of data of, their customers and all. So they don't want to go for the, the passwords authentication no more. They wanted to, completely have, the passwordless authentication, right? So in previously, we do not have this, options in the, the macOS, right? So we have to depend on some third-party applications, the Cisco DO or something, those applications which supports a feeder to authentications and web authentications. And also, for these applications also, it is going to be an additional cost. So it's not free of cost, which I have to do it, right? So with this passwordless authentication, what we're going to achieve is, so authenticating without the passwords and to secure and phishing resistant. So your, IDs will be secured, and it will be like, the no more phishing attacks on your credentials, right? And also, it is a seamless and faster logins. You just need to, like, whenever you, wanted to sign in into office.com, you just, click on sign in options and scan the QR code. You signed into the macOS or the browsers, right? And it also supports hardware security keys, the FIDO2 and the web authentication, and it is going to be an, the industry standards in the future. So, yeah. So with that, you can see the security of the passwordless authentication here. One is high security. And the second one is the low security. And the high security you can see is, the password plus 2FA and the passwordless authentication. And the local, you have a passwords. So which is convenient you to, like, for your, authentication, right? So if your password got leaked, you have a 2FA to like another protect. But your 2FA also can be broken, right? So because the 2FA can be like will be available on the device. If your password goes attacker, the attacker will find a way to like break your 2FA also, right? So with the passwordless authentication, they'll not able to like the read your pass key, the mechanism which is there. The key which is going to be created a 2 key, which is not a human readable, right? So with this, the passwordless authentication, which will help you to like to protect your user data and also authentications and everything mechanism, right? So with the passwords, it's the low security which I can say on the the current status, right? So now let's see about the zero-touch device enrollment with the PSSO, the platform SSO. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So currently we are following this, right? So we are just, once you deploy the, platform SSO in your, with the macOS 14 or the 15. So this is the current method we are just, following up. So you just need to like, register your register device and you'll get the register notification and the XSO extension register with an IDP and the user registration prompt. So if the user will have an option to cancel it. If they cancel it, again they'll get the prompt for another 10 minutes, right? So again the user registrations will begin. This is the current, the method which you're going to, the following, right? So and it is going to be the legacy when the macOS 26 is, being launched. So what we're going to achieve on the with the macOS 26 and the platform SSO, here it is. One is registration during setup assistant. So it is your, device complaints, basically and conditional access, right? So once your device is in completely, successfully logged into the Mac, you basically go to self-service applications and you do a registrations, and then it will pop up you the authenticate multiple times for the certificates and trust the AAD and all, right? So which is going to be completely avoided in this case. We are going to do a device registration from the setup assistant. That's a pre-stage enrollment. This is the feature which I have liked it very much. And then we'll enforce platform SSO will be enforced with the automated device enrollment. So here is the the point which I have the talking about the platform SSO, which is going to be game changer, which I've told you earlier, right? So I'll show you in the next slide how it is going to be work on the platform SSO with an automated device enrollment, and also local account created automatically with your corporate credentials, right? So here is the the catch. So on macOS 26, if you have the tried with an platform SSO adding to the prestige and all, you still see the differences, right? So your local the username first only the local username which will be captured from your identity provider. So your passwords you're still setting up manually, right? So with the macOS 26 and the new features platform SSO, your with your corporate credentials, your account is going to be get created, and this is an amazing feature which I've explored it, right? And optionally, you can sync your Entra or the Okta. If you set up photo there, you can sync it to the local account, right? And also there is one more feature which is available on the Prestige. That is, if you are in your organization, the managed Apple ID is enabled. So you can restrict the user from logging from the personal Apple IDs. So you can enforce the managed Apple ID from a Prestige itself. So let's see how it's gonna be work with the zero-touch enrollment. So now I got the device. So we have I just unbox it and open and selected country and the region. So here you have automated device enrollment page. So with the macOS 26, I got I see the the remote management changed to the name got changed to the device management, right? So when I click on enroll, you see the differences now, right? So here is the catch. So the single sign-on for a Mac, which shows the three options. One is automatically registered, and the password saying access to your applications and data, right? So this is what we are looking for over the years, with the native MDM framework. right? So we always had the challenges for the account creations and the password syncing and access to an application within seamless, right? So now with the PreStage itself, we'll be enforcing PSSO, and we'll be doing that, right? So the moment I click on, enroll, so it shows me an IDP authentication page where I have two options. Here, if you set your passkeys on your authenticator, so you can sign in the two ways. So where you can see the sign in options here, and also you can enter your password, email ID, right? So the moment you enter email ID, what happens? It will show me the sign in another methods, right? So even if you click on sign in options also, you will get this page. Here you can select the modern authentication, right? So here I'm not going to enter any passwords. I'll select iPhone and iPad, and I'll just scan the QR code and I'll approve it from the my authenticator application. Then that's it. I just logged in and my device enrollment will begins, right? So once the device enrollment begins, I got the managed Apple ID page, because I have enforced with the user to use only a managed Apple ID here, right? So with this, what happens? User can cancel it. Either user can continue it. Even though if user cancel, if he tries to sign in with his personal ID or something, which is going to be the restrict, because we can restrict from the ABM itself, right? And here I sign in within my the managed Apple ID. With this, you can see the differences, right? So with the native, the account creation page on the PreStage itself, so my credentials are, my informations are already captured, right? So my username and password and the user profile photo, the provided from an IDP, it will get synced automatically, right? So when I click on continue, it will create an account for me, and on the device, it's on the local, and my username and password is going to be in a corporate credentials, right? It's not going to be in a different username and the passwords. And then I'll do a biometric registration for the Touch ID. Then the data protection, the file vault encryptions will enforce it from the PreStage itself, right? And yeah, here you can see you have signed into the Mac. Here you can see the differences, right? So earlier we do not see this the platform single sign-on on the local account, right? So now why I'm seeing this, I have the created account using from a PreStage, the single sign-on which has been on the available on the macOS 26, right? So when these tokens enabled, so you'll be able to your credentials are already captured. So you sign into your Office 365 applications, or Outlook, or any web browsers are authenticating your VPN applications, and also authenticating to your Wi-Fi also. It can be used as that, right? Okay, you can be use this the credentials as well. With the one click, you will be signed in. It will no more ask you the passwords, and it will not ask you to approve it from the authenticator application. This is going to be in a complete the passwordless authentication, which is going to be happen, because this is going to be your credentials information will be stored on the secure enclave with the native framework, right? Yep. So that's the the macOS Tahoe, which is going to be the make our life easier. Also, the setup is complete. So you install any other applications, it will be seamless, be able to the login. So the next feature which I'm going to talk about is authenticated guest mode. So what is authenticated guest mode? So the most of them are familiar with the guest account on the Mac OS, correct? So with the guest account, what happens? You just sign in with the guest account, and you do work and access your resources, and then once you logged out, it automatically erases all your data, right? So with this authenticated guest mode, which is going to be work as a similar, but here is the catch, which is going to be work with your corporate credentials, right? So the first point is where you can use this as an the design for a shared Mac the deployments. This one can be used into one where the BPO where they work on a shift basis, right? So you can create another multiple accounts, and they can the sign out, and they can log into their account also, right? And it also authenticate with your IDP credentials and sign into an on the guest account when you signed in. It basically authenticates you from your corporate credentials. Uh, you will be able to sign into an apps and websites easily, all of your access and resources, and the user data is erased after logout. So which is going to be work as similar, which is there already on the native macOS guest account, but one changes, which is where I liked it. Here I'm accessing with the corporate credentials, so that you will come to know who are only the trusted users. They will be able to access the guest accounts, right? So if I don't have this options, what will happen? Any user can come and just click on guest account. They will be able to access all our applications. So here is the Apple has made changes. Apple has made changes, right? So here I will be able to sign in with only the corporate credentials, and with that you'll be able to access, and it erases your all data. So on the last part, so we'll review, and what we talked about is one is the passwordless authentication, MDM enrollment with the password, with the automated device enrollment, and the platform SSO, which has been integrated on the platform SSO, which has been integrated on your the PreStage environment, and seamlessly you will be able to access on a single click your VPN, network relay, and 802.1x authentications as well. And also which I've just talked about, authenticated guest mode, which is going to be help us also. So on the last, we have come to one Q&A sessions. So any questions? Yes, on the last.
Hi. Yeah. First of all, thank you for covering this topic. It's a great topic.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, a couple of questions I have. First one, so platform SSO you explained, right? So you're deploying that within the setup assistant itself. But
yep.
But for platform SSO to work, you need to also deploy company portal app, right?
Yes.
So that should be deployed during the pre-stage itself. How does?
Yep. So in pre-stage, you take any MDM, you'll have an option to deploy and package. The company portal can be uploaded, and also you can create a configuration profile for the platform SSO, and the both has to be available, should be there on a pre-stage. And once it is been kicked into the single sign-in page, it verifies that whether the company portal application, the company portal has been pushed or not. It verifies the application basically before going to a single sign-in for a Mac, and you are also single sign-in extensions also it verifies. Then it will be take you to the next level.
Got it. And one question. So you showed, right, after platform SSO screen, it directly logged into the desktop screen, right?
Yeah.
Now, at this point, you didn't enter or create any PIN or password, anything.
No, nothing.
Right?
You just enter
now, let's say you lock the screen or restart the device, right? With what you log in?
You will enter your corporate credentials as it is your email password to log into a Mac.
Okay, but passwordless won't work here? You can use any UB key to log in?
The passwordless, it is not added to the the file vault, because that's the the Apple security concern which is still there. So we'll have to wait for the few more years to get that update. The currently which is not supported on the it doesn't matches your the local and cloud passwords. Except your SSO, it will the managers.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi, Prabhu.
Yeah, hi.
This side. So I have one question regarding like pre-stage we are enabling. For what will happen for existing user which they are already using if you are enabling passwords for them? And second question, this will sync live password when they are changing password, like the password policy for 90 days. User is already using this POC, and after 90 days they change the password. So that password will sync automatically, or they need to sync manually?
Yeah. So I'll come to your first question. For the existing users, how are you going to do it, right? So the first to answer that, for the first question, so you will be for the existing user, you will be pushing an the PSSO configuration at the first of all, right? With that, you have to register your device. After registering your device, so the company portal will prompt you to sync your password, right? So that's where you will do a synchronization for and migrate your existing the local accounts, right? And the second question for the after 90 days, how frequently the passwords will get, synced. So immediately, the company portal, should, force the user to the sync the password. But, if it is not, doesn't happen, as per the Microsoft documentation, it should, the prompt the user to sync the password within 1 or 2 hours. Yeah, Okta also both. Okta and Entra. Yeah. So before we have other persons to ask questions, I have some the resources, right? So you can scan this QR code. You will get the PDF file. Whereas whatever I have covered in this the topic, I have created the complete documentation. What is passkey and web authentications and all, and you will be able to take this the information, and also you can download this PDF file, and you can take a snap, and this link will be available till Monday. Right? So after that, this link is going to be expired. And on the last page, you have my, the LinkedIn QR code on this documentation on the resources page. So you can, if you have any questions or something, you can feel free to connect on LinkedIn also. So any other questions?
Yeah. What role does it assume when we create a Platform SSO account?
Sorry?
When we create a Platform SSO account, what role does it assume? Does it assume admin role or standard role? If it is admin, how can we restrict the role?
Of admin role, which you're asking for the local account or the standard?
When during pre-stage enrollment, when we create an account, when Platform SSO creates an account through IDP, what will be the role of the account in the computer?
Okay.
Will it be
Yeah, that's the good question which is asked, right? So the first question is I wanted to on a pre-stage you have an option to on a pre-stage you have an option to select administrator or the standard account, where you'll have an option to do this, right? So where you can select the standard account. From there the standard account or the admin account, you can choose it from the pre-stage, and the account will get created.
Hi, I have a question here. So for FileVault-enabled users, right now we have a double login method, right? So first they'll unlock FileVault, then they log into their account. So how will it work with Platform SSO?
Yeah. So the Platform SSO doesn't does not manage your the cloud and the local password syncs. So it basically the FileVault whatever the password which has been set, the local password still manages from the keychain itself. So whatever the password which has been set on the the local user account, he can enter the password and he'll be able to log in.
So it'll still be a double login, like FileVault first with the password, then.
No, it's a single login. So you sign in within the FileVault screen, it directly lands you on a desktop.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So I have one question. This Platform SSO, it works with this certificate base, like keep giving certificate to the end user and then try to get communicating.
It doesn't provide any certificate, logically. So it does, the passwordless authentication through, basically you need to set in passwordless authentication from your identity, from your identity provider.
So it might be giving some token or something to the end user, right? Just to communicate. So
yeah, that can be with the passwordless authentication also, where you can enable 2FA also, where you have when you got this QR code, the same passkey. So you will be unlocking with your the two-factor authentication using your biometric.
Okay, I have one more question. So let's say enterprise has firewall, wireless connection, right? So connectivity also can be taken care of with the same thing, like connecting to the wireless network and all.
Yeah. So if you have as far as you have a Microsoft login, so you will be signed into using Platform SSO, it will extend. So wherever you see the login.microsoftonline.com, so it works the seamlessly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm not able to hear you.
Check.
Yeah.
So how is the local password get synced if I'm changing my intra-ID password, and we now no longer have Jamf Connect to sync our credentials, right, from macOS Togo. So what method we have to use for sync?
Okay. So the authentication which I told you, right? So that's one is a secure enclave will taken care of, that the basically checks, the hash value is from your identity and all. But
So it's cloud sync? So when a password is changed in intra ID, it will auto fetch those information and change itself locally.
I didn't get your question.
So I'm trying to reset my password in intra ID, and how the password sync to my Mac local account.
Yeah, so that's where you have a tokens generated from your it is going to be token-based authentication from your cloud IDP. So that will check your passwords and all.
Okay, so is that a manual process or it does automatically?
That does automatically.
Okay,
That the tokens will get refreshed automatically from a backend.
Okay.
Yeah. So with any other questions? No, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
So with that, so I'm going to end this and thank you all.